Welcome to the 6 Miles to Supper podcast. I'm your host, Kayla Cox, and I've lost over 80 pounds with intermittent fasting 6 days a week, eating whatever I wanted at my meals, taking a cheat day every Sunday, and walking 6 miles a day. And I'm here to help you on your weight loss journey. Hey everybody, welcome to season 2 of this podcast. Now I know some of you out there were wondering, where did I go? I was away from this podcast and my YouTube channel, and I was just taking some time off. We were visiting family. Me and my family were visiting my family and then our in-laws, and I was also, of course, doing the holiday thing, and I was also busy writing and publishing my latest book. And the name of that book is Overcoming Weight Loss Obstacles: How to Keep Going When Things Get Difficult. And so I was writing that, I was recording the audio version of it, and the print and ebook versions are currently available on Amazon, and the audiobook will be available very soon. So in today's episode, I wanted to talk about letting your spouse in on your weight loss journey. And I wanted to talk about this specifically because this is a thing that I in hindsight, I wish I would have handled a little bit differently than I did when I was going through the process of losing weight and all of the drama that kind of entailed. So I've invited my husband, JR, and I call him Jay, to come and give his perspective. So he'll be joining us so that he can kind of give the male perspective, although, it's not just, like maybe you're a guy out there and you're married to a woman. I think it's nice to just kind of have that perspective of the other person who's, maybe not trying to lose weight at all, or maybe has never had a weight problem, and just so that you can kind of understand where they're coming from as well. Thank you for being here. You want to say hello to everybody?
Hello, everybody.
So this has been an interesting kind of thing that I've learned about as the more that I've written about weight loss and made videos and the podcast episodes. And of course, you edit the videos and the podcast. So you actually do listen to all the things that I say about it, and you help me edit the books. And so you're reading all this stuff. So you ended up learning a lot about my journey that actually you didn't know about, right?
Right. I didn't know about your journey, or about your feelings during the journey, or really what you were struggling with.
And that was because, at the time, I was ashamed, that I had gained weight, and I thought it was just this big thing for you. I just assumed that it was this huge deal to you. I thought that you had definitely noticed that I had gained a lot of weight. I mean, when it was all said and done, that initial weight loss was 65 pounds.
Right.
That's a pretty significant amount of weight. And I thought it was this huge thing. I was terrified to talk to you about it because I thought it's too embarrassing. I can't say that I'm having a problem with my weight, or it's just something that I need to solve. And instead, and then I had all these other feelings too, oh, he thinks I'm disgusting now, after I've got this body, and, all these things are not ideal. And so that was what was in my head.
Yeah, you did a lot of deciding for me, or telling yourself what I was thinking without even asking me what I was thinking.
Right. And that really makes me think of Brene Brown. She talks about the story we tell ourselves in our head about things that are going on. We make up all this whole storyline about, and I did that. I'm so guilty of that. I thought, I just had this storyline of what you were thinking, feeling, even though you never said a word. Right. You never made a comment. You never said, hey, you need to lose some weight, or you're always super complimentary about my body. And I just thought you were lying out of, lying through your teeth or something, or you're just trying to be nice, trying not to hurt my feelings. And, so we didn't really talk about the weight loss when it was actually happening. And it was only after I started the YouTube channel and so I lost the 65 pounds. I maintained that loss for a year, it was really close to a year. And then I started making YouTube videos about it. And it was at that point that you realized that I had lost weight, right?
Right, and I still didn't know about the struggle of it. I just thought, oh, well, she lost weight. Okay, good. it hadn't been a thing on my radar
Right.
that you were working with it. I knew that you were eating on a different schedule sometimes.
Right.
But because I was doing work outside of the house for a lot of that time, I didn't know you weren't eating lunch or breakfast.
Right.
So it was kind of new to me.
Yeah, and that just blew my mind.
Mhm.
Like, because we kind of just slowly, because you were editing videos for me and stuff like that, we kind of just slowly started to begin the process of talking about it. And that was interesting to me because I could have saved myself so much, I think, heartache if I had just like opened up to you about it a long time ago, like back when I first kind of realized like I have got to lose weight. Like not only like do I need to do it, like I want to lose weight because I could tell that the weight was like physically causing me, misery. If I had just said, hey, this is what I'm struggling with, it would have made it a lot easier, I feel like, because there was so much that you could have maybe set me straight on and been encouraging.
Like something that you mentioned in your most recent book was about how you were doing the weight loss for other people, but you weren't talking to other people about your weight loss, so we couldn't chime in about whether or not we even thought you should be doing it or what.
Right. Yeah. And it was something that I had to realize, like, I have to do this specifically for me. But then also, I think I was partially afraid that, like, if I did say to you, I need to lose weight, and then if you said to me, no, you don't, then I would have, like, it kind of would have been like an excuse for me to just not even try.
Right.
And I think that was part of it, the reason why I didn't. But I really do regret not talking to you about it, because we could have had a much closer, like, relationship. You could have, like, been more of like a cheerleader for me, and probably would have helped me a lot more, like, just from an emotional kind of state.
And I would have understood better about your window rules and things, because to me, from what I can remember, it was that you were doing this thing, but I didn't really get why you were doing it. So it's like, oh, you don't want to eat a snack at night? I don't really understand why you don't want to eat a snack at night. Right.
And going through that process, it taught me some things. Like, I started to realize, like, okay, this isn't going to work that great all the time. Like, I need to kind of modify things so that I can have a snack with you occasionally at night. So it was okay on that front. But you're right. Like, if I had just told you, like, here's what I'm doing and here's why I'm doing it, you wouldn't have been so like, oh, here, you want to have a snack, and then me trying to figure that out. We could have, like, worked together on, like, okay, here's a plan.
Right.
And then, again, that thing where I really did experience this frustration, like, oh, no one is saying, like, hey, you lost, it's obviously you've lost weight, this great, like, I was so desperate for that kind of, like, just a pat on the back, and I wasn't getting it. But had I let you in on it and been like, hey, I've lost, 10 pounds or 15 pounds, you could have been giving me those, like, pats on the back. And
that encouragement that you needed.
Right. And that would have been a lot better, I think. It was a real solo journey, and I think it would have just been a lot easier.
And probably not even just a solo journey. Like, if you were actually on your own, on a physical solo journey, you're by yourself. But if you are walking side by side with somebody, and they're just not helping, or they're not even congratulating you on the milestones that you're reaching, then that can feel a lot worse.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a good point.
But those people who were on the journey with you, quote unquote, we didn't know you were on that journey.
Right. Yeah. And even though you didn't know specifically these things, one thing that you did do all the time was you always helped out when I started to ask for help. I would say, like, can you watch the kids? Like, I want to go to the gym this morning, or, like, I did just start going to the gym every morning. And I had to approach you and say, first of all, financially, can we do this? Not because you control the money. You don't. Like, we just make joint decisions. But I had to ask for help, but you always gave it. And I never had to convince you, like, oh, I really want to do this. But I would say that right now, like, if you're out there and you know that you need to start taking time for yourself because you want to go work out or whatever, you have to learn how to ask your spouse for the help you need. You have to say, I need this, but this is how it can help both of us,
Right.
like, especially if you can say, like, because people generally kind of want to know what's in it for them. Most of the time, I'd say spouses just love you and say, and if you say, I need this, they're going to say, okay,
Right.
you need this, so we'll make this happen. But to show them, to say, like, I don't feel like I ever get out of the house, and I need that kind of like mental relief to be able to, I can be in a better mood,
Right.
in the evenings or whatever when you get home from work, if I've had that time to myself.
And being clear about it, about what your desire is and why you need that. You would hope that you could just say, I need this, and that your spouse says, okay.
Right.
But it can't always work that way.
Right.
So if you've got something that you need to do, or space that you need, or something like that, explain what it is. And I'm sure your spouse will be happy to oblige.
Right. Yeah, being very specific, like clear is kind. Brene Brown says that all the time, and it's true. It's just like, if you are clear with people, then that is the kindest thing you can say is like, I need 30 minutes to get outside and go for a walk, because otherwise I'm going to lose it.
Right.
and then for their own well-being, they're going to say, okay, go, outside. And
and you just said specifically, I need 30 minutes to go outside. And that's a much better thing to say than, I just need some time away.
Right.
That sounds awful.
Right, yeah.
But if you just say, I just need 30 minutes outside on my own in the quiet.
Right.
That's, reasonable and clear.
Right. And especially when you have kids, I think that is certainly a thing where or another good reason to be really clear is because if you're kind of making them think, well, it's going to be an all day thing all the time,
Right.
I need more time, that's just vague. And it's like, how can they provide that? But if you say, I need 30 minutes to myself, or I need an hour to myself,
Right.
or whatever the thing is, then you're much more likely to get a yes. But now, so going back to, because we didn't really touch on this, you hadn't really noticed any weight loss difference. I mean,
Right.
because you weren't, it happened so gradually, I think both the weight gain and the weight loss, it just kind of like, it was very gradual from both perspectives. So then, but you did notice some like changes, and
Sure.
it's not what I would have thought. Like I thought, male perspective, you want a certain kind of body on
Right.
a woman, and that's just like, it's a huge deal if the body isn't that idealized figure, and but that it will be a huge deal if there's weight loss. But was that what you experienced?
Right. No, what I have told you is that your confidence level was what was really important to me. And I started to see that, certainly. Well, one, as you started doing YouTube videos, you're putting yourself out there in front of people, telling this emotional part of your life. And that is a very attractive thing. Like when your spouse is confident, not arrogant, but confident in who they are and how they're feeling. So I think that was the biggest change for the positive.
Right, and that is something. I mean, I think I still struggle with it. I'm getting a lot better. I've made a lot of progress, but it was very difficult for me to believe that at first, to believe you when you said that. Like, I don't care, your confidence level increased, and
Right.
that was really good. But like the idea that you are satisfied, and that it's fine and it's good, that has been a difficult thing, because I think it's just so emphasized, like with, television media and stuff, that it's like, oh, you got to have this kind of body, or your husband's just, basically
Right.
not going to really be happy. But it seems like that's just really not the case.
And I think that's probably the same across the board, whether someone started out obese or not. A lot of people have a lack of confidence in the way they look to themselves. So then, of course, it's magnified for other people. Like,
Right.
if you don't feel good about the way you look, then obviously nobody else can feel good about the way that you look.
Right. Yeah. So that has helped for me to really just to listen to what you actually say, instead of just writing that story for you, to just say, well, what do you really, what is your honest
Right.
thought, and then believing you when you say it. But another thing that has been important and has been helpful is learning how to talk things out with you. One of one of the major reasons I gained weight, I think, was, stress eating, like just eating out of stress, but I had a really bad tendency about bottling things up. Like instead of just talking things out and telling you like, okay, this is bothering me, like my weight, for instance, is an example of that, where I wasn't telling you like, this is bothering me. And, we could have just talked that out and that could have been a helpful conversation. But instead, I just bottled it up. Right. And then, it's this vicious cycle where it's like I'm stressed out about my weight. So then I end up eating because I'm stressed out. And then it's, this cycle of weight gain is horrible. But had I just talked to you about it, it would have helped. But then just learning to talk to you about everything, no matter what it is, just saying, this is bugging me. And you've been great about listening, and you started walking with me a lot of times. And I think that really helped us to start talking more.
Yeah, it gives us a lot of time to talk, especially if you don't carry a phone with you.
Right.
While you're going along.
Yeah, that's pretty much kind of our rule, is we don't have phones out generally. I mean, there are occasional exceptions to that, but we just walk together. And I tell you what, walking 6 miles consistently with your spouse, you'll end up talking, because otherwise you're kind of going to be bored out of your skull if you're not looking at your phone. And, things like, it's almost like you have to talk things out once you're just out there walking around. But then it was nice, because what I started to notice was, okay, once I talk it out, whatever it is, then usually we can kind of come up with like, okay, there are ways to handle the situation, or there are things we can do, or like, you may not realize something was bothering me, but once we figured out like, oh, that bothers me, or whatever, or that, like it goes back and forth. It's not just like stuff bothers me, stuff bothers you too. And then we would start to change these situations that were bugging us or whatever. And then that lowered my stress level. And then I ended up being able to say, okay, well, I'm not stressed out, so I'm not going to eat out of stress.
Right. And sometimes those things could be things that you are putting into your mind from the other person's mind. Like it's that same thing about not making a decision for them, but putting words in their mouth that they aren't saying. Do you follow what I mean? Like where I might assume that you are thinking a certain thing about a situation. Right. And then my mind just goes over and over and over that. And you're like, how could they think that? How could I think that? And you're not thinking that. Right. Yeah. But if we just say, it feels like to me that you are thinking this. Right. Yeah. And you say, well, no, absolutely not. That's not what I'm thinking. Here's where I'm at. Right. So that can help in all sorts of situations. Yeah. Yeah. And then also not expecting the other person to be a mind reader. So, because there were times, I mean, that kind of goes back to how dare you not tell me that you've noticed that I've lost weight? Like, you're expecting them to just know that that's important or that that's a thing, but they don't know. A lot of times they're just kind of clueless. You got to clue them in and say, like, I need this, or I need you to tell me this, and, or this made me upset. Like being clear. And understanding that none of it is too small.
Right. Yeah. Because I'm definitely guilty of that. I'll think, well, that's just a dumb little, like, it's dumb to be upset about that. And then sure enough, it always just ends up growing and growing, and it bugs me and it bugs me. And it turns into this way bigger thing than if I had just said, all right, this is a dumb little thing, but here it is. And then we can talk it out. And usually there's some sort of misunderstanding that is just like one little thing. It's like in the movies when you have that one little misunderstanding. It's like, you just have the conversation, and they don't. But and so then the last thing that I think has been really interesting is that you've really gained empathy. So you're we should say this, you're a skinny guy. Yeah. And you've always been a skinny guy. And so you've never had to lose weight at all. Right. But that doesn't mean that you've never like had like body image issues. That's something that I've learned. Right. So
it's hard as a man to be, I'm 5'6.5", and I think this morning I weighed 126 pounds. Right. So that's been my general weight since high school. And as a man, that's kind of difficult. Right. It's kind of like, I would say that's the equivalent of being an overweight woman as far as like, there's this social
expectation that a woman is, this perfect figure, and the man is kind of burly and, muscular, and and it's just, so I finally get some empathy for skinny people.
Right. Yeah. One of my nicknames in high school was Scrawny. So that is hard for a man when you're supposed to be tough and big and all that kind of stuff, and that just doesn't happen for me. So.
and that has been something too. Like, you started to learn, some of those things that had happened to me, like in school, kids being mean or whatever.
Right.
And you gained, I think, some empathy, like that. Things back then, I mean, they happened a long time ago, but they can still, bug you, and it can mess, especially with like eating food. It's like every time you sit down, sometimes those same kind of like the names you got called and stuff like that can really haunt you. So I think we've both gained empathy, but that only started to happen when we opened up about it, when we started to talk about it. Before this, you really weren't gaining any empathy until we started that dialogue about it. And had I let you in a long time ago, again, it would have been so much better. And then lastly, and I think this is a really good thing to kind of finish up with, because I think this is something a lot of women struggle with. We certainly struggle with body image, but the scale, like weighing, and our weight fluctuates by a lot. And something that you started doing was weighing also every day. So I weigh every day, and you started to weigh every day, and kind of talk a little bit about it.
And it wasn't because I was concerned that my weight was going either way. We just wanted to see what does that look like. And I have had huge fluctuations in my weight, 5 pounds some days, and definitely it goes up and down, just like Kayla's does when she was losing weight and during maintenance. So regardless of if you're struggling with weight or not, it happens.
Right. And you kind of gain an appreciation of how difficult that is, say, when you're trying to lose weight, and then, like your weight fluctuates up, and you kind of think, well, what did I eat yesterday? And it's like this morning you're... Yeah,
yesterday I took it upon myself to make some of those like Chinese restaurant donuts at home. And so I had, I don't know, maybe 5 of them yesterday, and also had pancakes with syrup. That was all that I ate, mostly.
Well, you had an egg sandwich.
And an egg sandwich later in the day. But this morning, my weight was exactly the same as it was yesterday morning. So that would tell me that the things that I should eat if I want to maintain my weight are Chinese donuts and pancakes and an egg sandwich.
Right. And it's funny that, and then other times you'll eat something that's like, hey, that seemed like that was really reasonable or not very much food. And then it goes up by 3 or 4 pounds. It's like, wait, what in the world? Like, that teaches me I should not have, salad or whatever it is. So it's been nice for you to see, it's like, oh, wow, that it can be really confusing. But also it's been a lifesaver for me because, sometimes it's like really going through a stressful time, and on top of everything, that's when my weight tends to fluctuate the most, And so it's been nice to just say, oh, okay, well, his is, his goes up and down just like mine goes up and down. And so it has given me like a nice little companion thing to compare and say, oh, okay, yeah, this is probably, just whatever we're eating right now. It's not that I'm going overboard or anything like that. It's just this is causing fluctuations. So yeah, you have anything else to add about?
Well, I would add, we talked a lot about communication, and that if people want to pick up a workbook.
Oh, I forgot to mention that in the introduction. Yeah.
That we co-wrote called Keep Talking. It's about communication habits in marriage, and we'll link to it in Amazon. And we worked with Kim Smith of Unbelievable Freedom to get that created and put out. I think it was last month that we finalized it and got it out there. Yeah. So it's a workbook that has situations that we've gone through and how we kind of worked through things via communication. Yeah,
and I'm planning on having Kim back on the podcast, or as a success story interview. We'll talk about her maintenance, how it's going for her, because I do feel like maintenance kind of presents its own unique challenges as compared to weight loss, and she has maintained for quite a while now, so it'll be neat to get her perspective. So thank you, Jay, for joining us and providing your perspective as a thin person who walked side by side along your wife as she was losing weight.
Of course.
I want to take a moment to let you know about my second book, Overcoming Weight Loss Obstacles, How to Keep Going When Things Get Difficult. There are frustrating obstacles that appear on every weight loss journey. Things like plateaus, slow weight loss, and dealing with emotional eating are all things that I have had to overcome. And in this book, I take you through each obstacles and I give you tips on how to overcome them. It goes all the way from getting started with weight loss through the weight loss phase and on into maintenance. I give a case study at the end of each chapter that talks about my experience with that obstacle, and it even talks some about the things I still struggle with. I've found that the obstacles are actually the things that will make you stronger and that will teach you the most about yourself. To buy the book, follow the link in the description.